Sex, porn, love addiction is all about self-soothing to manage your emotions. It got set up back in the childhood development years. It's just not about sex. It's not about porn. It's all about the repeated use has set up the physiology to crave those dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, self-manufactured drugs in the body. It's impacting women, men, children aged 10 to 75 across all the age ranges, the sexes, the cultures, the professions. It increased exponentially during COVID lockdown and impacting so many lives. The Kairos Center has created the first online comprehensive sex, porn, love addiction. It's a video on demand recovery program which you can access from anywhere in the world and begin to see identifiable changes just within 6 weeks of beginning this weekly program. Kairos means your appointed time. Isn't it your time to reclaim your life? Bring color back to life without shame. Click the link below and begin your journey. You owe it to yourself and to others.
I think if you're in a relationship and something isn't right, that there are times when if you really take a step back, that there is an issue with the other person. It's either you don't click together or they're just not healthy for you. And then there are times when you might go, I don't understand. They seem great. They're not doing anything wrong, but why am I reacting this way? I think there are times when we can know ourselves enough to go, why am I reacting that way? And I guess it's in those moments that you got to go, maybe I should talk to someone about that. And taking it back to what we said earlier, which is that it doesn't have to be something huge. You don't want to wait for that early morning knock at the door from the police before you go get help. It could be, why am I finding myself in a string of relationships and they're always ending the same way? And it's something that I'm always, either I'm searching for the same type of people for some reason, or I'm turning every situation into the same situation, but not to minimize it by saying it's just a little thing, when it could really be impacting our lives in much bigger ways than we even realize.
Absolutely. There's a pattern that you now start to see. And at some point, you perhaps need to lift your head up and say, something isn't quite right, is it?
Yeah, I've often said before that I think there's this old kind of cliche that you have to love yourself and you have to be have all your stuff together before you get into a relationship. And I don't think that's true. I think as long as you know what you're bringing and you're not giving the other person the job or responsibility of fixing you. I think if you go into it knowing these are my issues and I'm aware of them and I'm doing what I can do to work through them, that's fair. I think it's when people take their issues into the relationship and expect the other person to fix them, to be responsible for them. That's because, look, every relationship you go into, you've got your stuff, they've got their stuff, and then you'll have your stuff together. That's a lot of stuff. So you got to be prepared to kind of work on your stuff.
You're very kind in the way we go into relationships because we fall in love. To know that I've got my stuff. Well, it's not me. I'm not the problem. You're the problem. But most of the time, the other person becomes the mirror that reflects our stuff back at us. You know, somebody has said, marriage is the place of our partnership, longer term partnership, is the place of our healing. Don't leave it too quickly. Why? Because the other person is going to start to bring out our stuff. They are going to bring out our stuff. And if you leave it too quickly, you're still going to have to work it through with somebody else. So I just say that work it through with this one and then make a decision you're going to leave or stay. But work it through because you're just going to keep moving with your stuff and it's going to look different with this other person, but the stuff's going to come out.
It's tough. Relationships are tough with other people and with ourselves.
That's an understatement.
Right? It's
relationships just, oh my goodness.
It is, but everything. It's all so tough. I mean, and between addiction and compulsion, and it's but you have to decide, is it worth it? You know, I think sometimes it will be, sometimes it won't be in relationships. But I think the underlying thing here really is when we were talking about love and sex addiction, porn addiction, and all of that too, is that it does stem from somewhere and you can't just bandage it, because if you've got a tire and you keep getting a hole in the tire, but you keep bandaging up, but you keep going the same streets, it's going to keep like, you have to figure out where is that nail coming from that I keep driving over. But again, I don't care what the addiction is. I don't care what the disorder is. We are all deserving of getting the help from it. And the last thing we want to do is feel shame. I mean, I think shame really keeps us from getting the help we need. And we are doing ourselves such a disservice by not living
Shame is
with
so
health and happiness and the joy and the freedom that we deserve.
Shame plus narcissism equals sex addiction.
Ooh.
Shame is a massive component of addictions. Shame means hiddenness. Go into hiding. Don't ever share this with anybody else. Don't go to 12 steps. Don't let anybody know. Don't talk about it. Just stay hidden. And partners get caught under the umbrella of the shame of learning about the addiction, and society will, yeah. So shame is a massive component, keeps it hidden. And then this other one of narcissism, well, that's not me. I don't want the limelight. I don't actually, and I have to do some work to help some clients to recognize the narcissistic traits. Now, I'm not saying you're a narcissist, please. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is you've got traits that come out of narcissism, me, myself, and I, even though I think I'm doing for you, actually all roads lead back to give me something. So there's an ulterior conditional, and that's narcissistic. And I often say the antidote to narcissism is empathy. The two cannot coexist together in the same place. They're like opposite ends of the same poles of a magnet, north, south. You try and put them together, they repel, they push. Narcissism, empathy. So if you want to do something about narcissistic traits, you got to work on increasing your empathy.
I said at the beginning that you do a lot of your work online, so people can.
So yes, I work online with people all over the world. Just yesterday I was in Saudi Arabia. I could be in Beijing. I could be wherever you've got internet connection, working with people with mostly porn, sex addiction, but relationships, couples counseling, singles, very much so. And the EMDR work that I do, again, it's all done online, and all the eye movements, all the webcams for eye movements without my hands and fingers getting RSI. Don't do that. There's all the gadgets it's really good, and it all works.
And you said that you were going to make a generous offer to your listeners from our podcast.
Yeah. I'll certainly give you a reduction. Just come and have an assessment, and I'll give you an insight of whether there is something about sex, porn, love addiction. And then you can decide if you want to go on to do the more extensive history taking. But remember, when we do the history taking, it's not about porn or sex or whatever. It's about what happened back there that set you up on a trajectory. Yeah. And it so happens we might go on to work with porn and sex and such, but this isn't about sex and porn. It just isn't, So get back your reputation. It got ruined, but let's get your reputation back. You can get your reputation back.
Although I prefer to, I had heard a quote once that said, once you ruin your reputation, you're free to do anything you want, because to me, there was a huge freedom and liberation that came from ruining my own reputation. It's just living in truth and without fear and without shame. That's how
I like. No, what if it's that? Oh yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that.
It's exactly. It's risking ruining your reputation by being honest about who you are, facing your life, and living without shame and fear.
I like that.
Over 36,000 downloads of the Sex, Porn, Love Addiction podcast in just 2 years. You're missing out. Take a look.